Hey guys, before we get into this podcast, I got to give a huge shout out to Adam's family, both Jack and Neil, for sticking around and filming this for a second time. I had a huge technical difficulty in our first podcast that caused my audio to crash completely, and I could not feel worse about it. Thankfully, the guys were cool enough to stick around because they wanted to give you some content. And what we covered is super important and I think is also unique to their brand and why they're doing such big things up here. So without further ado, let's hop into the podcast and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the Gas Station Podcast. This is episode now, I should say 8 or 9 because we just filmed one. But we had some technical difficulties. So huge shout out to our guests today. They're going to stick around and we're going to do a little part 2 for you guys. We're going to hop right into it. If you would, introduce yourselves. Let everybody know who you are.
Neil Clemenson.
My name's Jack.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you guys again. Neil, we just talked about you had some major background in the industry and starting off from a young age. As well as you too, Jack. So starting with you, Neil, I know Jack's busy over here getting us ready. Could you tell us a little bit about what age you kind of got involved and how all that went?
Yeah, as a young kid, I was exposed to it. My mom met my dad now, and he was a cannabis grower. And so I was exposed to it at a pretty young age, probably first grade or somewhere in there. So I remember looking at big plants and growing up and seeing those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and Jack, what about you, brother? I mean, you are... That stuff is sticky. Guys, they have brought over some samples.
I got you.
They have brought over some samples that, I mean, are just out of this world. Got some beautiful ladies over here. Jack, can you tell us a little bit about your start? I know we had talked previously, you and I kind of connected over skateboarding, and I ski, you snowboard, but...
Yeah, I grew up in Oregon. We were snowboarding out there, enjoyed cannabis. Then came to Michigan and, we're in the cannabis market.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. What were some popular stuff that, around that time that you were smoking on that you gravitated towards?
Jack always tells the stories of the shishka berry.
Right.
Shishka berry? What is this?
Afghani blueberry cross, but it was real popular back in the day out of the West Coast. There was a time when it was very prolific before the gas.
Before the gas. So I gotta ask, you said more blueberry would remind me mostly of candies, that type of stuff, so...
Oh yeah, there's a candy like Afghani. It's different than the modern day candy, but in the same right, it's, candy right? Sweet, berry,
yeah.
Artificial, that type of taste.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. With all your experience in the industry and that type of stuff, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but there's been some big changes that I think everybody's kind of seen with those flavor profiles, so with you guys growing and kind of chasing, it seems like kind of all these terps and whatnot, what are some things that may be coming up for you guys that's in the future?
We, over the wintertime, did some pretty mass hunting of a bunch of different genetic lines. So one of the lines we went through pretty extensively was Little Lake Valley.
Okay.
So we looked through a lot of his stuff, which he has, Front Porch Sitting is one of his strains.
Yeah.
I believe we touched on at one point. Rambutan is also one of his strains. Mangosteen, a lot of different washers also, right? But a lot of Z-terp dominant things.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So we've gone pretty heavy after him. There's been a handful of other breeders that we've gone through. Anybody that's got cool stuff out there, I'm curious to see, right? What the weed looks like. And, one of the ones we're going after soon is a Sexual Chocolate Factory. I don't know if you've ever seen...
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
They say sex sells, so you get that on the market. That's just a name that's going to captivate people right off the bat.
Yeah. The only reason I even heard of them is because of 710.
Okay.
They actually are the breeders of Stanley.
Oh, yeah. That is a popular one for them, too.
For sure, and a couple other strains for them. Reggie Watson, maybe, and...
Is it Randy
Yeah,
Watson?
Randy, there
Randy
we go,
Watson,
yeah,
yep.
and there's one other one, too, that they did. But I just bought their box set to go through because I was just curious, just because they're odd terps, you know, so...
Yeah. I don't
curious.
know about you guys, but with me, I love almost hunting for those unique terps. You know, there's really, I like finding the really good one that, you know, is like, oh, no, this is what this strain is supposed to be. You get what I'm saying? And that, you know, is always a nice feeling and something to actually come across. But finding that one that you hit and you're just like, I've never experienced anything like that is kind of what I'm gravitating towards more in, I guess, my searches.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know
for
about
sure.
you.
Something that's unique at this point, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see something new. I mean, I'm surprised with the breeding these days with all the different flavors. We talk about it all the time. So I feel like that to me in itself is pretty fascinating. Just that there's so many different flavors that can come out of this one plant through all this different breeding is wild, you know? Like,
No, for sure. It's incredible that we can even get to this point. You know, we had talked about earlier, I had Clay on doing some living soil talks and things like that. And hey, it's a common happen. It happens all the time. No, but we had talked about, you know, living soil and just all the inputs and everything that goes into cannabis nowadays is incredible to me. How do you guys adapt with the market and consistently learn, you know, maybe new practices or new methods, or do you stick tried and true to what you know and this is the way?
I would say a lot of it comes down to research and then trying other people's stuff. Too is another thing that I like a lot, you know, like going to events where somebody's gained notoriety. Last year we went to Smoking Jacket in Portland. It was interesting to talk to some of the other people there that had won awards or, you know, different things like that. See if our techniques align with theirs at all. Try to find common practices, you know, different things that we believe in that help and express that through the uses of these different things.
It doesn't sound like you guys really gatekeep it.
No, not at all.
That's refreshing to see. I feel like there's a lot of mids in the market right now. The market's just saturated, you get what I'm saying? And it's crazy to kind of see these like cash grabs at things, you get what I'm saying? As comparative to people like yourselves that, like you said, you're traveling out, you're trying to share techniques, you're trying to learn techniques. I think that's something that speaks true to what you guys are growing, because I mean you can see it. You guys are pushing limits and boundaries with flavors that fill the shelves, whether it be with rosin or for flower. You know, like I said, it's getting to the point now I pick up something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even surprised their name's on it at this point. You know, you guys are crushing it.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to bring so many different things to the market and let other people try them. Years ago I used to, you know, only grow things that I liked myself, but at some point we've, you know, expanded out to just be, you know, all these different flavors, different profiles, try to find it all. Just because I don't necessarily like something doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't, right?
The next person won't. Yeah.
So I feel like keeping an open mind and gravitating towards these things, finding the common practices and threads are there, and a lot of this knowledge it's not like you can't find it on the internet, you know? It's just like who you want to listen to is kind of
who do you
also,
want to trust, and that's the hard part about the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people that all the time. AI is getting to the point, I'm sure you guys have seen it already, if you start to Google anything now, it comes up and there's an AI answer at the top where it's pulled from all these websites, you know, and kind of generated something for you to look at. I think people are going to start, that's going to become more popular. For one, you're going to Google something and you're just going to start getting one answer. And people are going to start, I think, treating people like yourselves as kind of the second opinion that they may get from like a doctor. You get what I'm saying? Like they have the one and it's like, oh, that was the answer from the guy who, you know, pushes meds. Now let me go talk to the home person, you know, and get that second opinion. So how do you guys like view education and stuff like that in the market? Are you guys pushing education a little bit heavier with your guys' presence, or?
It was something we should probably do. I mean, myself and I would say Jack included, we both believe education is a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And a component of, making a better person. So yeah.
Especially to like these bud tenders and stuff, I feel like, for someone like me who, I love the plant and I bud tended, and I love to do research on the plant and talk to people like you guys and figure out exactly what makes your stuff so good or sets your stuff apart. So it's always refreshing, to like you said, see that education and get to be able to be open and have conversations like this and share with everybody, what you guys are about and doing up here in Michigan.
I feel like the uses of maintaining, thinking about the generational impact of stuff also too, right? Like you said, a lot of stuff is just a cash grab versus we want to be in this for the long haul. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of times we're actually, doing a lot of work that we might not see dividends on for quite some time. Right. But as a company, we can feel good that we're doing it because even if it outlasts us, at least we didn't leave a bad impact on what we did.
No, for sure. Jack, maybe you can speak a little bit more to this, boss. What, in your guys' I know you said you did a little bit more day-to-day operation type stuff, and I mean, I'm sure you're still in the fields too, but what, helps you maintain that balance of the day-to-day type workflow of Adam's family, and also how do you stay true to your guys' craft and passion through that?
Yeah. Well, okay, that's the simple answer is this. It all comes down to the fact that everybody that works there appreciates and respects the plant as much as we do, so they know it's a group effort and it's a team-driven thing, and we're all driving to get to the same thing every year, which is a successful, bountiful harvest, right?
Yeah.
And so we're all we have a team that's been with us for a few years now, and everyone's become akin to that process.
Yeah.
And so it's just another season for the books.
Yeah. How do you guys, or how do you feel like you cultivate that type of atmosphere for the people you work with?
Try to make it fun. Pay everybody good.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of people, so who we do have there, we try to pay well because then they can hopefully raise a family or make better choices for their life, So I feel like having those values, trying to provide a fun atmosphere. Most of the events you've probably never even seen us at. We usually send all those guys because I feel like it'd be funner for them to go to a lot of.
I bumped into a lot of those guys, at the events, but this is my first time meeting you two officially.
Exactly. We both have families and stay on the grind a lot, right? So I personally feel like we kind of talked about before, that we're in a time and a place, and it's not going to last forever. So I feel like as it evolves, we need to evolve with it to be able to stay in the presence of it too, right?
No, for sure.
So to put these extra time in now, I feel like is also trying to be there and make a presence for what's to come in the future for cannabis.
Yeah. Now, you spoke on earlier, you have 20 plus years in the industry.
Yeah.
How has your techniques transformed over the years, and what have you learned, as far as those techniques go? I know we had talked about you had a transition even from outdoor to indoor. And
yeah, for sure. I've grown kind of every which way. So I feel like it's kind of what makes it fun, too. I've done deep water culture, hydroponic, rock wall. I've done pretty much everything you could almost do. The only reason that I've gravitated back to soil is just because I've smoked so much weed myself that I felt like, as a consumer of it, I felt like I was enjoying the weed grown in the soil better. Kind of how you talked about with, certain organics and stuff providing more of just a different buzz.
Yeah.
And it felt like sometimes I had legs I guess is the term, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not tripping when I say this. You guys, do you think that like sun grown and those types of things can play effect to how you feel off cannabis?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
He's nodding his head big time. Jack's like over here like, yes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. For sure. I would say even to the misnomer of what people would think, the highest testing I've ever seen has actually come off outdoor. The most terpenes I've also seen in weed is from outdoor, right? So it's kind of crazy because, you know, indoor just has a certain look and a desirable feature in its own, right? Because it's a controlled environment.
Yeah.
But I feel like as the market comes on stronger and people learn more, I think there'll be a certain amount of the people that would gravitate to, you know, smoking sun-grown weed, just because I feel like it's, like as you would say, not necessarily maybe cleaner, but different.
Yeah.
You know, I would associate, you know, and some people can't handle the severity of modern day weed. So they may appreciate that kind of lethargic buzz maybe differently, or different aspects of it, you know? Like,
I sense that hugely. I get customers come in all the time that ask for, you know, stuff that isn't as strong as what it is nowadays. You know, I'm looking for stuff like I used to smoke, you know, I don't need to be knocked out.
my dad still smokes, you know, so I go visit him here and there, and you know, bring some weed with me, and it's crazy, 'cause it, you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely
Like,
different.
I only need a pinner of this.
Yeah, for sure. Or he even likes hash, so I've introduced him to rosin, you know, and he's just like blown away
Yeah.
that could be made out of hash, you know. He's just like, oh my god, this has really come a long ways, you know.
It has. Now, I'm still a sucker. I don't know about you guys. We talked about RSO earlier. Love RSO, but speaking of hash, brick hash? What happened to it? Where's it at? I need it.
Well, yeah, I saw
like it?
There's some people bringing it back on the market, right? It's just a different acquired taste, right? It's not as it has more of a hashy taste, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more of a European thing than it is an American thing. But I do see that people are doing it,
Yeah.
right? So I saw some temple ball style hash type techniques coming back and that kind of things. Even though I thought temple balls were something different. At least in my time, they were.
They definitely were, but
Yeah, I thought they mixed things together to make those things,
some stronger things.
but well,
No, for sure. We got the chance to try some Moroccan brick hash in Spain, and we did it in a way that was kind of unconventional. But olive oil over there is like that's where it's all sourced from. So anything you get over here has been cut from that source. So it's normally about 30% is what they send off to get cut with, and then it's spread out in bottles. To actually get the bottles of olive oil from that region, you have to be like a certain restaurant, know somebody, that type of thing. So it's really, really high in fat content is what I'm getting at. And they would literally like, I don't know if you call it freebasing it or whatever, but they were putting it in spoons, the olive oil, and then putting the brick hash in there.
and boiling it out that way.
And then they'd heat it up.
That's
You
interesting.
get what I'm saying? And then you'd take it to the dome with a piece of bread, but it was lights out for like 14 hours.
Oh, that makes sense. You're decarboxylating it. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just, it was almost, within 15 minutes, we were all walking around the compound we were staying at, just like,
Yeah.
you know, eyes fluttering in the back of our head and everything else, man.
Oh yeah. I've eaten some hash like made edibles, like homemade ones, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been relatively strong. So like caramels are a good one because you make caramels, you know, it has to get to the temperature that will like pretty much damn near decarboxylate the hash in the process of making them.
That, and I like to, whenever I make caramels, this will be a recipe I'm putting on the website, but when I make caramels, I like to use all the other ingredients that I use to make the caramel, I infuse everything. So
Yeah,
like
'cause
the
it's
sugar,
got-
I'm
yeah.
gonna do infusion on the milk, I'm gonna do an infusion on like
Yeah, you make it real strong.
the
Then.
butter, all of it. I want
Yeah.
like one piece of like, I don't know if you ever heard of like the Stars of Death that were real popular, that were like 900 milligrams and like one little tiny star.
No.
It was a real popular gummy, and those things, big out in Cali, would just obliterate anybody, you know. So I like experimenting, trying to find, you know, like that balance again. I feel like some of those combinations with edibles you can make, you can do.
Oh yeah.
Find a way to pack a punch in a lot of different ways with those, you know.
For sure. I had tried some what they had, you know, claimed to be like cancer patient doses of edibles that were wild, right? Like hard to see straight.
Yeah.
Like it definitely makes you start seeing kaleidoscope style. Yeah. You know.
It is psychoactive at some point.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
for sure, bro.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Hey everyone, I want to give a huge shout out to this week's sponsor, and we're giving it to Adam's Family for sticking around and giving you guys some awesome content on this second take. If you haven't been able to tell, I feel super bad about it, but they were super dope. So go check out their website. They got a ton of cool merch like this champion hoodie they hooked me up with. They've got a ton of other goodies in shops nearby that I'm going to actually be reviewing on the website over these upcoming months. So links all in the description, right? Now let's hop back into the podcast. Jack, can you tell me, man, do you think percentage matters when it comes to flower? And I mean, I'm talking THC percentage. I guess that was a little broad. Terpene percentage may be different, but what about THC?
I mean, I think it matters because it matters to the consumer still, right?
Ooh, that's a good way to look at it. I have not heard that yet. Yeah, no. Why do you think it matters to the consumer so much? Is it on education, or does it actually, like, is there something to it that matters?
I think that it's just like it's a simple way to measure something. You're like, okay, it has more THC. It's, you know, that's something they can compare the rest of the weed to.
Like you used to like alcohol or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like volume, you know.
For sure. So you guys lean more on the side of the fence of like that percentage would, like alcohol, then probably get you more drunk or get you more high?
I don't think that matters whatsoever.
Okay.
That's more my thought on it, right? Because it seems to be the entourage right, of the other shit with it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I've smoked plenty of 14 percenters that have been amazing.
Enjoy that dab. Bro, I swear that dab right has me tweaking though. So we recorded the podcast, guys. It went well. Like I said, huge shout out to these guys sticking around and giving you guys some content, because I was having a heart attack. But when that thing first went off in the first podcast is what tweaked me out and was like, oh no, did one of my cameras just shut off? So homie's over here making me relive the nightmare. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, bro. What type of banger is that?
This was actually a Toro banger. I got this at a Huna Hash event.
That's what I wondered. I thought it said Huda on it.
Yeah.
That is sick.
I went to their like farm to table thing and it was pretty cool. But I won part of the
3D printed like station that came from that.
From
Ross
that
hooked
thing,
it up.
yeah.
Yeah, shout out Ross.
Yeah, dude, Ross is doing good things for the community. You know, he's out there trying, which I appreciate.
Right. I mean,
the last thing he did with that, I didn't go to it because I had a surgery right before it, but it looked really cool, was the donuts one.
donuts and coffee,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I ain't gonna make it out to that either, but everyone who went, I've heard great things from, you know.
I got to smoke some of the hash from some of the guys, and we met someone at Smoking Jacket. Dude, some of those, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal shit.
Have you guys tried any of one of the big people up here that everyone always asks about whenever you're even down in Spanibus is Terp Wizard?
Oh, yeah?
Have you guys tried any of that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
What'd you think?
I think some of them are pretty cool. It's like one of those deals where like certain terpenes I feel like he's really captured.
Yeah.
Well, some of his papaya crosses I really liked.
No,
More so
sure.
than more of the melon ones and stuff. I like some of those ones. Like Trop Papaya that he did back in the day was pretty amazing. I think he's also showed people that you can be pretty effective with a greenhouse, because a lot of his stuff is in a greenhouse and sun-grown. So that is also pretty cool.
Very cool.
Especially even in Michigan too. I know some of like the people that he associates with in the hash scene we've met too, and they do some really cool things, and we're a big inspiration for us would be like that Kushkirk guy and Yashi Meltz. A lot of those people were, you know, some of the stuff they told us co-aligned with some of the thoughts that we had already. So it helped reaffirm some of the, you know, ideas that we had.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got to try some of his more recent stuff, and I really enjoyed it. But I like seeing people, like I said, get out to Spanibus and kind of push that Michigan, you know, name. And seeing him do that was something that I think is very, very, very unique. Could you guys talk a little bit more on like some of the collaborations you do? I know we've got rosin up here, we've got the flower down here, and this is something I asked you about earlier, but yeah, help me out with the flower. So that's solventless snow caps, right? So for people who don't know, or that's snow cone, that's a snow cone is what that's calling it, but I guess snow caps or snow balls is what it's mostly referred to in the market. Could you tell me? Because I mean, I opened that thing and there's some solid flour in that.
Yeah, we provided the flour for that with North Coast, and then I believe, I wouldn't quote me on this because I'm not 100%, I'm not an extractor, but I believe it's a centrifuge used process where they isolate the THCA off of it. There's still a flavor to it because I did try some dabs of the straight snow.
Okay.
It still has like you can tell what strain it is, which I thought was
That's actually pretty wild considering the state it's in.
That's what I thought so too, because I've tried other isolated products where they didn't taste like shit.
Yeah.
Right. So that one still's got a flavor. It's a new product they released, and we were happy to do some work with them.
Have you guys got any new collabs or anything new coming out on the market you could talk about?
Yeah, there's going to be some new stuff coming this year for sure. We got we'll be doing a decent amount of live resin with Humblebee. For sure, which is one of the first companies we got into the market with. So we'll probably always be making products with them as long as they're around, and we're around. I think Trap House we're also going to be doing some stuff with for sure.
Now they're newer to the market. Am I correct in saying?
I think Dean.
Or Canna.
Yeah, they've been around for a minute.
Okay,
So
okay.
like they 3 Lefts, Trap House, all in that window.
Oh, 3 Lefts is with Trap House.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're all in that same window. They've been making it for a while too. So we like that they do like the baller jars.
Yeah.
You know, there's a part of me that likes that, you know, that you get as much of the product as you can in a jar that you can legally sell.
It's hard getting, I don't know about you guys, maybe you can attest to this, Jack. Do you smoke concentrates or more flower?
I smoke flower.
Okay. So maybe this is a question for Neil then. It's hard for me to go somewhere and be like, oh, I want to try something, you know, new and getting that 1 gram puck, because I feel like by the time I'm like fully done reviewing that puck, I'm like either A, have run out, or B, just about ready to.
Yeah, it's a joke, for sure. I mean, the 2 grammers are at least a decent start, right? But the company that I feel like is doing interesting things right now is that in the rosin space is that Wizards of Rosin. The fact that they have like the bigger jars that they're releasing is a cool concept.
Yeah.
Because if you're dabbing, you know, and you're doing it like a gram ain't much. That's for sure. So,
Okay.
you know, that's my thought, anyways.
I'm with
But
you.
we'll see. You know, whatever people want to do, it's up to them. You know.
Right.
So.
Jack, you say you're more of a flower guy. So what's your favorite form of like consumption method? Are you more like bongs, blunts, joints?
I like to roll papers.
Okay, hell yeah, bro. And I saw you were doing it traditional style
Yeah.
too, bro. So more props to you, dude. That's how I first started to try to roll. I never could really get the hang of it, and then I ended up going to, actually, it's funny you mentioned it, the crumple method. Because you just crumple your paper and like, oh, there's so much more texture here. I can kind of roll it around and not going to tear on me. And then I started eventually like, oh, I'm going to switch over to just going with the tip. And after that, I was like, all right, I can roll cones now. I got that down. But I always ask people that because I think it plays a huge part. And I think not only how you perceive the flower, but also how a lot of people can relate to it. There's some strains out there that burn really well through papers and other strains out there that only burn through or well, sometimes through bongs.
No.
Are there any strains out there specifically that you gravitate towards whenever you see on the shelf? You're just like, that's the one I know.
No, I mean, that's a good question. Like I said, we're constantly looking for new genetics, and I don't really think that there's any one in particular.
Yeah, you're just like, let me try it all, bro. I'm right there with you. Absolutely, man.
I feel like there's something to be said, though, about the idea of what you're saying about if it tastes better in a joint or a bong, right?
Yeah.
One of my pet peeves about weed, right, is if it doesn't taste good through the whole joint, right? So, like, one of my, like, if we'll keep a pheno thing is smoking them, and if they start tasting, like, weird, you know, it's one thing that I'm like, man, when you find the winners, they taste good the whole way through.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
I will say this is some cool science. So, if you're smoking a king size cone, I shouldn't say science, it's theory right now, but they're trying to prove it. But if you're smoking a king size cone, halfway through the cone, it should taste better than when you lit it. And the reason being is the size of the joint has actually gotten to a point where it's burning at a cooler temperature. So those terpenes that are being released off right there, half the way through that king size J, should be most prevalent right there, especially after all the resin and everything else that's dripped down through. So I'll be interested to see more studies on that, because
that's interesting.
one of the things that I judge weed on sometimes, I don't really like relighting joints. I'm going to smoke it until it's done normally. But in those odd cases that I don't, if I can relight it and it tasted just as good whenever I relit it than whenever I put it out, you know, that's
for sure
saying a lot in my opinion.
I have a friend back in the day, I used to be just smoke the fuck out of joints, right? And so I had like keep mason jars that I would keep all the roaches in.
Yeah.
And then people call them the boneyard, right? So they would take the boneyards and they would always be pumped that they like still tasted good, like, you know, was what I'm saying, right? So I feel like there's something to that, right? Like, to me, what probably pushed us the most is just wanting to smoke good weed, right? So like growing up and shit, it's not like I had access to it, or, you know, see things here and there, but it wasn't prevalent, right? So making decisions based upon that, you know, wanting to have better weed, right? What made it better?
Yeah, this is kind of a funny question, but one that I'm interested in knowing for you, since, you know, you said weed was kind of always around. Did you ever have those, like, roach days in your, like, teenage years where it was like, oh, I'm going to make a roach blunt or something like that because weed ain't around?
Oh, yeah. For
He
sure.
said, hell yeah, no.
Yeah, it's very much so.
I know, bro. We're skaters. We're putting together everything we can, bro. We're with the homies trying to put it all. You skate, too, so...
Oh, yeah. We smoked many of, I mean, shit. I came from a time when it was like people put buds inside their metal pipes and they'd smoke weed over it. It'd be like this chamber bud that this old dirty mechanic would break out on your ass, you know what I mean? Fuck you up for a fucking hour or two.
The chamber bud.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
my dad always wondered why his 10mm sockets were gone, you know?
Oh, yeah. Made many a socket piece. That's like the gravity bong. Every kid's made so many gravity bongs, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to... I feel like that's part of, like, smoking and almost learning to appreciate the plant, too, in a sense, because, like, if you learned it from that, like, stage, like I did, smoking out of pop cans or just anything and everything, when you get to a point where it's like, I've got rolling papers, I've got a hardcore tokes piece, I can smoke weed, whatever, it just makes you appreciate it a little bit more, I think, at least for me it does. Tell me, bro, you grew up where weed really wasn't illegal, so how was living during that time, and like also like just being around that, I mean, was the stigma still kind of there of like weed's bad, or was it just normalized?
I mean, I think it was definitely normalized for sure.
Wow. Okay. Because that's something I'm still even seeing up here in the market in Michigan. I feel like people are still starting to come around to it being normal. So to hear that is just like, it's a separation of worlds for my little brain.
So if you've never been out there, you should go out there once. It's interesting for weed, you know.
Yeah, no, I that's the one place I really do need to get out to, I will say. I've been to Cali.
What part of California? Did you go to Northern California too, or no?
Yeah, Northern, we went, I really did the whole state in just like 3 days. We went from top to bottom. But I got a friend that lives out there, and then we went to Mexico. We hopped the border right there. And went down to Mexico City, and ended up finding a dispo down there. And
really?
Oh, yeah.
How was the weed?
Okay, so this is funny that you asked this. It's good.
I've heard they have good weed down there.
Yeah, I mean, am I going to tell you they have weed out there that's like our top shelf? Absolutely not. But do they have weed out there that's like decent shit? And I was surprised. Abso-fucking-lutely. But here's why. The Mexican cartel doesn't control the weed. The Canadian cartel does. So everybody down there that I bought weed off of was all Canadian that had bought a one-way ticket, and they're growing all the weed, they're handling all the weed down there.
That's crazy.
And then you have the bigger cartels that are handling all the hard drugs now. Because what happens if Canadians get in trouble down there?
They get deported.
They just get deported.
That makes sense.
So all the cartels are like, yeah, let these gringos move down here and push our shit. Take care of the fields too while you're at it, you know. I don't want to get in trouble. But everybody, you know, from Canada is like, yo, there's a huge market for it. Tourism's booming down there.
Well,
Which is that's a whole separate story. It's sad because like there was more wing stops down there than there were taco spots.
really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And tacos were through the roof. They're getting like priced out of like living. When you make tacos and your meat costs as much as your monthly rent daily now because all the wing stops and everybody are in your place buying up all the goods, like you get kind of priced out of your own town. So it was a very sobering experience, I will say, to realize like, wow, there's good and bad that comes with this, you know.
Yeah.
I'm down here buying weed, but at what cost, you know?
I bought some weed in Belize, and it was horrible. Went down there one time, and the weed was garbage.
Yeah, how did you find it?
In like a bar through these people. I thought I was going to get shot by this guy or something, but it was really seedy weed. But I felt really bad because I was going to send the guys some seeds and try to help them out, but I never did. I forgot about it. But.
How do you, maybe this is a good question, because I know you've been in this game now for a minute. Whenever you've traveled, what's the number one like go-to way to find weed for you guys?
I've, honestly been less cautious than I should probably with traveling. They don't usually care when you're going somewhere. It's when you're coming back from that place.
Even like cross-country, you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're not as, some countries maybe they would look and say, hey, you're coming from the United States, maybe you got some weird shit. But most of the countries that I've been to, they're more concerned about you leaving there with some weird shit than they are you coming in with anything, right?
That's actually, yeah. Now that you're saying that, I think the only place that has that weird shit that I've actually been to out of country is either Canada when you're going through, or Mexico. They have a red light, green light system, and it's just random. I mean, you'll get, 3 red lights, a green light, 2 green lights in a row, and then a red light. Like, you just...
I don't even think they would care if you were trying to bring some weed to
Mexico,
Mexico,
maybe not. They care about a drone, though. Jeez, oh, Pete, those fuckers will take your drone and good luck seeing it. I mean, they're going to hold it for all... You better tell them it was one you bought at the airport type shit. You get what I'm saying? Because if they find out what it's worth, you are fucked.
somebody's car payment.
No, 100%, bro, 100%. I was trying to go to a Lucha Award show down in Mexico City. And my buddy Ruben, his family's from Michoacan, which is where a lot of the... Ruben's not associated, but where a lot of the gang stuff is and cartel stuff is, right? So one of the things with him was when we were down there, we were going into this Lucha Award show, and they tried to get my bag off me, which had all my camera gear in it, like all of it. So plus a drone and some like hard drives, all this, about, $30 grand worth of camera gear in a bag. And they were trying to get me to check that bag, and I was like, no. We're like,
when do the doors close is all we wanted to know. So like we'd take it back to the hotel, come back, and then we'd be good. Well, they wouldn't tell us, and they kept trying to take the bag. And then one security guard came up and shoved Ruben, and that was all it took. Ruben didn't like flinch. That security guard was like this to him, right? But just right back at him, and then cops and everything. I was like, oh, I'm about ready to deck a Mexican cop, and I'm going to jail, you know? Like, scary, scary shit. And then they ended up finding out where he was from. And as soon as they found out, like, where he was from, they were like, oh, no, you guys are good.
That's crazy.
Just like that area, that was the only time I had ever encountered some stuff like that. Now, I will say, you had mentioned you thought you were going to get shot buying weed over in a different country.
Yeah.
I will say that's the one point in time when I found that dispo in Mexico City that was, I sent a message out to my family type shit. You know, like, hey, love y'all. Because I got put on an elevator, and when I got on the elevator, I realized that there was no controls for the elevator. They controlled the elevator, and they could send me to whatever floor in this building that
Oh my God, that's scary.
they wanted to. And I got up to the door, said a code word, and then they buzzed down to the lady downstairs to make sure that was the right one, and they buzzed me in. After that, it was like a fucking dispo that you'd be here in Michigan. The only difference was they had mushrooms on the wall, too.
That's wild. Makes sense, though, too. I mean, people are always going to pursue it, right? So at this point, why wouldn't you, like, tax it and make money off of it, you know?
Oh, yeah. Zip started off at 160 USD.
Wow. That's pretty high. That's higher than I thought they'd be down there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to they're capturing on the tourist market.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because how I found it was Reddit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
I couldn't find anything.
Did they have Canadian strains, or were they, like, different strains than you'd ever seen?
It was all renamed stuff.
It was?
It was definitely renamed stuff. Just to make it seem, you know, more, I think,
California
Americanized.
type. Yeah.
But I will say no one in there was the only regulars I saw in there were Americans traveling for work, or Hispanic people that were from America down there a lot of times as interpreters and things like that for like big companies.
Yeah.
They're traveling from work. So like it was definitely people who had money. Like that's not where your average person
Joe
in
is going to buy weed
Mexico
on the
is
street.
going to buy weed.
That's interesting.
But I will say we went to a mezcal drinking festival and walked a little bit off the path, and I was surrounded by weed. Just, I mean, growing right there on the side of the mountain. It was incredible.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never really, that's one thing that I was like on the bucket list is I'd like to go to some countries where I just see it like growing like that, like, be cool.
Yeah. Bro, has there been any festivals or anything that you've checked out and really liked, Jack, that you're like, yo, if you're involved in this industry, like, you should go and check out this, like, cannabis event or something?
We did 710 this year, and we've shown out to a couple events, but we right now are really primarily focused on harvest.
I'm with it. When does harvest time come for you guys?
End of the month it'll start.
Yep.
Some strains, we have a couple varieties that are earlier, like September 20th, I would say. We'll start a little bit of that, but we're traditionally cutting all summer now because we have light deprivation too.
Yeah.
The end harvest, though, is horribly long for us. And
That's those 12-hour days you were
12-hour
talking about?
days, yeah.
Absolutely. Man, with your growing knowledge and stuff from the West Coast, we talked on this earlier, what is similar about that grow compared to like what you guys are doing maybe over here? Is there some knowledge that translates back and
Yeah, I mean,
forth?
we're all the same latitude, or maybe it's long. Yeah, I think it's latitude.
Yeah.
Longitude is long.
Well,
Right?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking.
I love how everyone still like refers back to that.
So we're on the same latitude as like Ashland, Oregon. So in all reality, because of the lake shadow, we can kind of go pretty long. So we're able to take, stuff in greenhouses to Thanksgiving. So, it gives us the time to actually finish strains out and give them the, love that they need.
Yeah. Now, what does that extending that time do for the plant? Does it strengthen it? Does it just help you guys get bigger yields? Does it?
It's mostly about just the actual expression of itself. Like one would argue that You know, a lot of the reasons you don't see like as many diesels or stuff in the commercial market right now is because they have to be grown for so long to really have a true expression.
Understandable.
Then that limits a lot of people's, you know, most people want to be done by X date, you know, aren't willing to push the boundaries and go longer because the frost could come early or something could happen, right? So I feel like we don't put all our eggs in one basket by any means. We kind of try to diversify and go all over the board. But we've had pretty good luck with a lot of long ones here, working pretty well, and the climate being pretty good.
Are there certain strains, or could you tell me some certain strains that would fit into the categories that like may work over there that also would work here?
Damn near anything. Really?
Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised.
We just kind of have a really good, perfect climate for it. Huh?
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff of like the Hawaiian varieties that I have some friends that have. They have to take them into December out there. So you wouldn't be able to run those here by any means, right? And the GMO is a wee bit of a stretch for us, but we can make it work.
Yeah.
Right, so I would say we have about, you know, we'll see, I guess, because we're trying some that are a little longer, right? But I feel like as long as it has an expression and it's expressing itself through the means of being able to be taken to the length that it should, not cutting it early, then I'll be happy with it. But if we do have to cut it early, then yeah, probably won't do it again.
Understandable for sure. How do you guys maintain stability in the farming practices as you guys are expanding? I know you've got some new stuff that you guys have been doing, like living soil, things like that you've expanded into. So what's the, you know, how does that work out for you guys with the stability aspect?
I would say
there's that heart attack thing again, bro. I almost, right there at the end of the question, I almost was expecting you could hear the hesitation in my voice, bro, because I just seen him hit it. I was like, it's gonna go off. Sorry, but no. How do you just maintain the stability in your guys' practices and whatnot as you grow?
It's slow and steady, and you know, trying to get everybody at, you know, the job to appreciate it the same way and notice these things and try to, you know, everybody's pretty proud of it there, and we're trying to bring something to market that we want people to talk about. Like, I want people to be happy that they work there and have this job, and so I feel like it all kind of ties together.
Yeah.
Right. If you're pumped on where you work, you're going to do a better job, and, you know, you're going to henceforth probably reflect it in the product, I would hope, too, then.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, you guys can, everybody here, if you can't tell by this interview, care about your craft like none other. I'm excited to see what you guys continue to do in the market. I appreciate you, seriously, both of you, for hanging around with me on this second run of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Where can people find you at, that type of stuff? Where can they learn more about you?
We're currently, our indoor flowers, and currently about, I think, 12 locations scattered across the state. But people out there could just ask at their local dispo that they like, and then we will come drop some samples off to the people and hopefully get it there, you know.
Yeah.
So we're trying to expand slowly but surely. We try to work with people that actually care about the weed too. One of the big players in the game for us has been Nobody's Home. I don't know if you've ever gone there.
Actually, yeah, I have. I went there to pick up, hold on, it's going to come to me. 710 close drop. Close fringe drop there, actually.
Yeah, they're on it. They're pretty good people. They do a good job buying, and they care about weed a lot. So I feel like they've opened some doors for us, which has been pretty cool, and introduced us to some other people. So slowly but surely we're getting around there, and then having these collabs with all the outdoor and greenhouse and light depths with all these concentrate companies has really helped too, obviously, too.
Yeah.
You know, chances are they've heard of us because of that, more so than our indoor flower, probably.
Yeah, North Coast is huge with you guys, and I can't recommend the grape gas enough. I was smacking that before you guys got here, and like I told them, it's been one that I've been putting back in the fridge, you know, and saving it little by little just because I've wanted to hold on to it. It pushes through with the genetics as well as this flower we've been smoking. I so sincerely am impressed. So seriously, thank you both for being on, and I appreciate you all. Guys, this has been episode number 7 or 8. I look forward to seeing you all next week.
See ya.